Today we're going to go through the Seder from the beginning to the end, hopefully. And there's a couple of, most of the things are obvious things, and not things that I'm going to be being mechadish anything to anyone over here. People probably conducted Starim more than I did. But in any event, there are some things that I think I might be able to enlighten you, hopefully. The first thing is, especially on this year, that a common mistake is that this week we changed the clock last month to Shabbos, and that means that Shabbos, the Shabbos Suda gets started a bit later, and it means that we get to go sleep a drop later Friday night as well, unless we make early Shabbos. And early Shabbos gets us into the program a little bit earlier, and then we hopefully remember to say Kriya Shema again after whenever the chiyuv to say Kriya Shema is, and like this we are Mekayim our mitzvah of saying Kriya Shema at night. Although one can be Mekayim Shabbos earlier, but say Kriya Shema he has to say, or the mitzvahs that are meant to be done at night, he has to be doing at night. So the Kiddush is a Kiddush that a Kiddush he could do mi ba'od yom, he could be Mekayim the Kiddush of every Friday night, and that's why most of the, I imagine, I suppose down here, up here, they do it as well. But by us there's almost no minyanim late. All the minyanim are all early Shabbos minyanim throughout the summer months. The question is on Leil Pesach, how to go about things. So on Leil Pesach, although people would want to make Kiddush earlier, and because of that, what they would do is they would want to start the Seder and get the things rolling, so like the children should still be able to participate when they're awake and they're aware of what's going on. And that's really what the whole idea of the Seder is really for the children. But one has to be concerned to make sure the Kiddush should not begin before 45 minutes after Shkia, 60 minutes after Shkia, whatever time a person considers night, from Matzah Shabbos or whatever it is, that would be the time that one should make Kiddush. A person shouldn't be making Kiddush before. So even if there is a minyan earlier, he should rather use that minyan only to help him be able to start when it becomes night, the preparations, all the other preparations. But for most of us that don't have the time for that, we're going to go through a couple of things that I've seen brought down. And the first halakha is brought down in Siman Taf Ayin Beis Yiyeh Shulchanoi Aruch Miba'od Yom Kedei Lechol Miyad Kishatachshach. This is actually a halakha that one should prepare his Seder table before it comes night, meaning before either after Hidam is Ma'ariv, but before it's night, before he's able to make Kiddush, or probably what the Mechaber really had in mind was that we should, in the afternoon, early afternoon, we should prepare our Seder table. So there's a couple of things that might sound silly, but over the different experience that people have, I jotted down a couple of things, and some of them are actually halachas and minhagim that are brought down. So the first thing is, obviously the tablecloth should be put down miba'od yom when it's still day. The kalim should be put down, the different exquisite silver and whatever else people have that they want to put down, they should put down miba'od yom. Those kalim, even if you're not using the kalim, even if you're not using the silver dishes, whatever it is, because Maram Rottenberg used to take, I mentioned it last week, that he used to have kalim that people owned him as a collateral that he used to take for people as a collateral. He would put them on the Seder table. Now, I would venture to say that probably he kashered them before he did that, because one wouldn't be able to, even though it's a halacha in Shulchan Aruch that he should put his nicest silver that he has, he should put them on the table. But a person can't forget that there will be a problem even if you're not using the keli. Those kalim have to be tabled kalim. So I rather happen to know someone who goes always to an antique shop and gets himself these unique kind of pieces. Many of them you cannot kasher, you can't make them kosher Pesach, and you're probably better off not having them on the Seder table, although it might enhance the table. But yofsus chara b'hev Seder. It's brought down in Sfarim that one should have flowers on the table. The gematria of Reach is 210, which is the same gematria as Leil Seder. The Reach, to have obviously a fragrance, something with a smell, or flowers with a smell, is something that would enhance the table, although many of us do it just because simply it's nicer. the bechers, the haggadah, all that kind of thing, obviously should be, the wine and the salt water should obviously be all done mibayid yom. The salt water preferably should be taken care of mibayid yom, just because for the sake of, on years that you do it when Shabbos is Erev Pesach, and you can't do it before, and you just have bishul issues, so you're better off, or the first night is, you're better off just getting the salt water, just cooking it up before the Pesach. Now just a small side thing, the kittel is not something that should be found on Leil Pesach when you come home from shul to look for the kittel. The kittel it's always a good idea because you forgot to take it out of the cleaners, and many people I have had recently, a friend of mine, Rav, told me that someone came running to him, he didn't know what to do. He was on Leil Seder, he came home from shul and he realized that his kittel was still in the Pesach, in the cleaners from Yom Kippur, and he hadn't picked it up yet. What should he do? So he didn't have a kittel. He came to the rabbi. Maybe the rabbi had a spare kittel. But obviously these are things that Chacham and Bereisha. Okay. As far as preparing the foods for the Leil Seder, before we get to the Kaddish Orchatz part of things, nothing roasted can be eaten on Leil Pesach. So unless there's some water, you're cooking something, anything that's roasted that has no liquid in the pot would be a problem. Because it looks like there's a Zechel Pesach, and for that reason that we're going to speak about later on when we get to Magid, matzah zu we lift the matzah, mara zu we lift the matzah. Pesach we do not lift the shake bone or whatever it is, because it looks like you're having chulin baz. It looks like you're having kosher b'chutz. And so you can look at the Pesach, and we have it. The Zraya is actually a zecher for the carbon Pesach, but it's not. We can't pick it up and think that would make it would look like we're being over on kach and b'chutz. So anything that's sli that's done, you bake a chicken or whatever it is, would be a problem. Nashim are mechuyev, women are mechuyev in all the mitzvahs of Leil Pesach for two reasons. The first reason they're mechuyev is because the Gemara and Taisus brings it down, and Taisus and Megillah brings it down. Kol sheyeshna be Pesach yeshna bekumachal matzah is mechuyev in matzah, and the halacha the Mefarshim say that would include. In fact, there's in the Yitzris printed in the back of the Seder. I don't know if they say it out here, but by us they definitely don't say it. But last year I found one of the things, the lashon over there is Sachu shehanashim tzrichos la'amtza b'chol mili depischa b'li shimtza ve'af agav the mitzvah sasei b'hem lo nimtza shaz mangrama b'hem lo nimtza. Although nashim are not mechuyev in mitzvahs that is mangrama, so they're not mechuyev. They wouldn't be mechuyev in Leil Sukkos. They're not mechuyev really to eat the kazayas in the sukkah. So why am Leil Pesach do they? Because kol sheyeshna b'bal teichel chametz yeshna b'kumachal matzah. Whoever's in the isser of chametz is yeshna b'kumachal matzah, and because of that, nashim will be mechuyev in all mili de pischa. The Mishnah Berurah speaks out that because of dalad kaisis, they're also mechuyev to eat and to do all the mitzvahs halayla. Another reason that Taisus speaks out is that mechuyev because afen hoyu b'isa hanes. And because of that, Nashim would be mechuyev in everything. Dalad kaisis, really, Meker Adin and Shulchan Aruch, we would find that Nashim would be meisha enu tzricha hasei ba'elam keni chashuva. So the Ramah v'chol Nashim shalom mikri chashuvas. So in essence, all of our women are really considered, special wives and special women, and because of that, they have to be mesiv as far as Shulchan Aruch is concerned. Although the custom by many, and I think we mentioned this last week, is that the Nashim are not mesiv. We spoke last week that there are some limitations, that they shouldn't stand when they drink or eat, or whatever the case is. The other mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs halayla, the ikar hamitzvah at least, they should try to be mekayim. So they don't have to drink wine, that's a 16%. If it's going to mean they're going to get dizzy and whatever else. But the grape juice they could get away with. Whatever it is, they should drink a rev kais. They could drink sometimes the bare minimum of what you need to do, lakula and b'diavad at least. But at least they should do, everything has to be done. So they might not have to make, if they have to put the kids to sleep or whatever it is. Watch your kids. The kids are getting rowdy and you have to, they have to be in the other room with the kids. It's like this. The Seder could continue, But at least part of the Haggadah they should say. The fundamental parts, I'm going to get to that by Magid, what are the fundamental parts that the Nashim are Mechuyev to do. So the Mara, just the Mara they're Mechuyev to do, and the Kairech, all the different points of the Seder that Mechuyev Me'ikar Adin to do, because Afen Noi by Sanes, Taisis in fact uses the Lashon Ikar Halnes Haya Al Yadam, because the Nashim were actually a big part of the Geula, like you find by the Chazal say B'schus Nashim Tzedkani is Nigalu Avis Enemy Mitzrayim. So the Geula actually happened because B'schus of the Nashim. So because of that, they Afen Noi by Sanes, the Nes of the Geula, and because of that, they're Mechuyev in the Mitzvah. So.
Are they yoytze with your kiddush, or do you make your own birthday go?
Yeah. So that's the actually that is where we're holding. Yeah. So we're gonna go to Kaddish.
Never you had that question.
Kaddish. While one makes Kaddish, I'm going to go through this in a very point form. It's just like this we could get whatever we can in 15 minutes. Matzahs that should be covered when one is making Kiddush, like they should be covered all year. Everyone has to hold the cup of wine, even if they don't make Kiddush. Meaning there are many people that have the custom that everyone around the Seder has to hold the cup. Has to make Kiddush, and they all do it loud together. Many people do. Some people do not have that custom. That custom is a custom that we spoke about in the previous shurim. Is brought down in Taisvis. Taisvis in the beginning of Aviv Pesachim alludes to such a minig that all the Nashim, that everyone, all the Mesubim, everyone around the table would be making their own Kiddush. They do not, in the halacha, they do not have to make their own. They don't have to say the Yom HaShishi part of it, the Savrim Rabbanim part of it. They could be Yitzhak for someone else, but the Dalit Kaisis, the drinking, of course they do have to, because they're Mechuyev in the Mitzvah Salayla. One of the Mitzvah Salayla is Midrabanan to have the Dalit Kaisis. So what they should do is they have to hold the cup while they're doing it. They might have to hold it high, but at least to have it where it's brought down in halacha, they should touch the cup to show that what they're going to be drinking is going to be for the Kiddush that's being said now. So even an elderly person that can't hold his cup, and if that's going to shake out, should at least touch the cup, and to show, like, to the other people around the table, although it's quite obvious, no one's drinking just a shot of grape juice, or a shot of wine at the Seder, just out of the blue. But whoever it is, even women, have to hold on to the cup while they're making the Kiddush. Now, just speaking about women, they have the bracha of Shechayanu would be a difference if they're actually being Yotzi the Kiddush or not. The Nashim make a Shechayanu when they're making the Hadlakas Neiris on Erev Pesach. They make the Hadlaka and they make a Shechayanu. And really, when they make that Shechayanu, together with the men, when the men make the Shechayanu at the Seder, we have to have in mind all the other mitzvahs that follow that night, mitzvahs matzah and mara, all the different mitzvahs that come together with Shechayanu, Kimanu, V'Giyanu, Lazman Hazeh of Leil Pesach. It's not only going on Kiddush; it's going on all the mitzvahs that happen on Leil Pesach. So the Nashim, when they make that bracha, so if they're making Kiddush themselves, so then they pause when they're making the Shechayanu, and they let the men at the table, or everyone else at the table, the other women who had made Kiddush already, who had not heard the Shechayanu, they let them continue on, and then they drink the Shechayanu, they drink their wine together with everyone else. If they're being Yaitze from the person, and then they're going to be drinking, then they should say Amen to the bracha, because then they would have a problem of a hefsek between the shti and the bracha, so that's why they would have to say Amen. So if they're making Kiddush themselves, they omit the Shechayanu. If they're not making Kiddush themselves, then they're listening to someone else, and they have to answer Amen to the Shechayanu of the Baal Habayis or the other people that's being made to them. And now, let's say they're not going to be making Kiddush. Everyone else at the table is making Kiddush. She has to make sure that one specific person is having her in mind.
Some people don't let the husband say the whole Kiddush, and then they make the word cook up for themselves. That's not one of their possibilities.
No.
Either you say the whole thing.
Yeah, either you say the whole thing, and you have him being mighty with the Baypri Agafen,
right.
or you say the same. You say the whole thing straight from the beginning. I mean, again, there are many different customs.
Some
And
people just say the bar, the husband says the whole thing, and they say the bar pre.
oh, okay.
That's not one of the.
No, it's not. I hadn't seen such a meaning being brought down.
So just to be clear, if she says Shechayanu on Hadlakat Neirah,
Then she does not, and her custom is to say along with everyone else Kiddush, and she's quiet.
omits
Omits the bracha of Shechayanu. She's quiet at that.
She can't even say Amen to your bracha.
She can.
No, she shouldn't say. No, she should not say Amen because she has. That would be a hefsek. It's like if I make Al Natil Sedayim, let's say Friday night, or we all make Al Natil Sedayim. You wouldn't, after you make your Al Natil Sedayim, you're not going to answer Amen to someone else's bracha because that would be a hefsek. Okay. Obviously, the person has to remember to drink the kais for heseba. The chatchila, the kais should be drank when it's in one gulp, if possible. If not, with one hefsek in between, it's fine. And if not that, then anything less than 4 minutes. More than 4 minutes would be too long. Would be more than kedei for this part. Every kedei the shir shtia, and would be a problem. So even if it's a person should rather get himself some less alcohol or something tasting a little bit better that he would be able to drink it down, than getting himself something a little bit higher in alcohol or drier kind of a wine or something that he doesn't really like. So, and if it's going to be at the expense of him not being able to drink it within 4 minutes. Someone who forgot to drink it by Haseba, and Haseba we spoke about has to be on something, on a firm, on a thing. It has to be. You can't just lean in free air is not considered Haseba. To lean on someone's foot, to lean is not either Haseba. The easiest thing if someone doesn't have an armchair is just to lean around and lean on the table, or on your friend's shoulder is also fine. But the Haseba has to be done on something. It has to be leaning on something, because if not, it's not Derech Eretz, it's actually Masav. I'm trying to balance myself when I'm drinking it. Haseba is obviously on the left side. Someone who forgot to drink by Haseba has to drink over again, although he does not have to make a bracha again. He does not make a bracha again because the bracha still works for his cup. He had a hefsek in between. Okay, lichatchila. One should not eat or drink anything until after kairich, actually. So until after kairich, he shouldn't drink anything or eat anything. Someone who knows himself that they're not going to be able to, hold out so long, and they want to have themselves a glass of water. Food is more problematic. Food, I think, you've got to try to hold yourself in and either eat something right before you go to shul. To drink something, if this is a halacha really on every Shabbos, and many people don't know this, what you do is you make a Bar Pri Hagafen, and when you're making the Bar Pri Hagafen, you have in mind also to allow you to drink something following the Kiddush. So now, when after the Kiddush you make Kiddush, you drink it by Seba, you can take yourself a glass of water if you had in mind that Bar Pri Hagafen should pater a cup of water. You don't have to make a shahakal, and the bracha Bar Pri Hagafen is like we'll call it like a hamaitzi. You don't have to make an hamaitzi. You don't have to make afterwards a shahakal. So the Bar Pri Hagafen paters a drink, a drink that you would have afterwards. So, you don't have an issue of a bracha she'eina tzricha because you're not making yourself another bracha. If you're eating foods, you run into other issues. So the best thing is if someone knows that they want to drink something, they should have in mind to to drink some water when they're making the Bar Pri Hagafen, and they would be fine. Orchatz. Obviously, we wash our hands without a bracha, and a person should not speak out until he eats the karpas. He shouldn't speak out anything only if it's me'inyanoi of the karpas. Meaning, if you want to pass me the salt water, and then they start passing you the lettuce and the leichter and the grapefruit, and you don't know what they have in mind. You say like after someone makes al tel sedayim, before the hamaitzi, someone could say melach. Salt, pass me the, if the guy is not going to understand salt, he's going to look at you like you're off the wall. and you say pass the salt. Whatever is in yoneh of the achila, you're allowed to be mafsik always, and that's not considered a hepsik. A hepsik is a very relative terminology. It's something used depending on what's called interrupting between the two things. So, if the point is that I shouldn't be masiach das from cleanliness, the way it used to work bismana chazal was when tumah and tyrus was active, and they wouldn't touch any vegetables, anything that was mukshal kabel tumah. They wouldn't touch it without washing their hands. And actually, I've been by Shalom Zacher by a couple of from like real ultra than that, and in Yerushalayim, and I was the first time I ever saw it. What they do is they serve the arbus by a Shalom Zacher with spoons. So you're not having a physical contact. What? No, it wasn't a chassid. It was actually Briska, from the Briska dynasty where I was at. But it was interesting for me to see that, we always know that the only time that we're really careful on this halach and this custom that was way back then of washing your hands for vegetables was on anything that was mukshal kabel tumah was only Leil Pesach we try to act to cut above.
How do you get around that certain minhagim the women don't wash, just the men wash?
I don't know. But what I would say would be that it is really the next halacha, that because of that, I'll get to your halacha in a second. Because of that, I think it's important to note that when you're eating the karpas, one should eat it with the hands. Because if you're eating it with a fork, then I don't have to wash my hands, right? So there was no point. The whole point is, why do we wash our hands? Only because we have a chiyuv netila. But if you don't have a chiyuv netila, because you're going to be eating with a fork, then you're basically just going through the motions without having any reasoning behind it. So, back to your question, if the custom is, and I know by my father was the first time I came, 11, 12 years ago, I came to the Seder, and I'm sitting and I'm the only guy, my father-in-law, they brought him a big cup to wash his hands, and I stood up to wash them, and everyone was sitting, look at me like I'm off the wall. And over there the custom is that only the Baal HaSeder washes his hands. I washed my hands that year, but probably what I should have done would have been just to take the karpas and eat it with a fork, and then I wouldn't have a chiyuv netila. That would be the easiest way out of it.
Yeah, but you're missing a section of the
yes, 100%. I didn't. The following year, I did the same thing. the next year, my wife came along with me. I think by now already that minhag is dwindling away. I think the rest of the people at the table, I don't know where it came from that only the Baal HaSeder does it. I happened to be looking around when I was, going through trying to organize myself in the different halachas. Okay. Because the karpas should be preferably the way in our custom it should be less than a kazayas, so that you shouldn't have a chiyuv to make a bar pri'adama. The Rambam actually holds that you do have to eat a kazayas. The way we spoke like a month and a half ago at the shir was that, according to the Rambam, one would have to make a bar pri'adama, and we have to figure out what you do when you get to the mara. If you already made a bar fashas on that hadama really expired, so you can't really use it anymore for the mara. But in our custom, I would assume we go with the custom that we eat less than a kazaya. So even if one's hungry and it's like a bit of a tease, get yourself a quarter of a potato, and you really want to eat something. It's like your stomach is really ready for it. You have to know that the halacha is less than a kazayas. Now, as far as who has to dip it into the salt water, anyone around the table could really. The minhag is halal is shtei pa'amim. We dip it in twice. So it's either the Baal HaSeder could dip it in, and that's the many customs. Either the Baal HaSeder dips it in before he gives it out, or it's before or it's after. But in any event, I think that it should be the tibul should be before the bar pri'adama. Right? Meaning, because if not, it would be like a kind of a hefsek. Now, obviously, if someone forgot to do it, he could probably dip it in. Especially because it's very probable that the whole reason why we eat the bar pri'adama, this karpas, is only in order to be able to do a tibul. So if it's kind of missing, defeating the purpose. If you eat the bar pri'adama, we don't need you to eat some celery and potatoes. It's because we want you to do a ma'aseh tibul. unless according to the Rambam we had a shtickle Torah, then according to the Rambam that you have to eat a kazayas, the Rambam might have understood that you need to eat. It's the chiyuv to eat something, but our custom is not like that. Yachatz is obviously you do the middle one, and when you break the middle one, the reason why we hide it and we let the kids hide it and grab it away from us is only to try to keep them entertained and to try to get them to stay up until the point that until they finish.
Till they collect their loot.
So it was a good tactic of Chazal that they when they implied the Sidrei Halayla, they knew what they were doing and they tried to work with us to try to get the kids entertained. Okay, I don't mind if anyone leaves, but I want to myself just go through the Seder. Magid has to be done derech shaila tshuva, mascha b'gnus, mischayim mishvach. You have to start off with the bad parts, and you have to say the gimel dvarim below Pesach, Pesach matzah mar. Whoever doesn't say those three parts, our pash is not yet to the mitzvah of Pesach. Another point that has to be pointed out is there are 3 points that have to be dwelled on while we're saying the Haggadah. The first thing is the gnus of Paroi, the badness of Paroi and Mitzrayim, that what they have done to us, the nisim that happened to us, which would include the saying over the asar nisim, the esamakas, and as much as one can elaborate, obviously is harez and meshubah. But we have to speak the 3 parts that are fundamental of the Haggadah is the gnus of Paroi, the nisim that happened, and the halal and shvach to Hashem of what he done for us. Now, if someone who reads through the Haggadah and does not understand Hebrew is not mekayim the mitzvah of Sibir Tzis Mitzrayim at all. It's not like Kriya Shema that you don't have to understand what you're saying. The mitzvah of Sibir Tzis Mitzrayim is that the children and the people who are listening should be saying. So if the kid knows Kriya and our children, most of them do not understand the Vrit, the Lashon Kodesh, they don't understand what the father is saying. If he just scans through the Haggadah, zips through, he's not mekayim the mitzvah, and he was mavatal an opportunity to be able to implant emunah into his children. So it doesn't take much for what the father has to do. It takes around 3 minutes. We're talking about the actual halacha, the actual kiyum mitzvah is just when you finish the son says the manashtana, either he understands what he said or he didn't understand. The easiest thing would be to do is manashtana. We ask 4 questions. We wanted to know why we eat matzah, why we eat maror, why we dip, and why we lie. The answer is avadim hayinu, because we were once slaves and we were redeemed. And if we wouldn't have been redeemed at that given point, and Hashem wouldn't have given them makkos, and Hashem wouldn't have done whatever He did then in Mitzrayim and taken us out, we would have still been meshubah to Paroi. Now, although we probably could have had a revolution then and fought against Paroi, but that shiba that we would have been indebted and enslaved by Paroi, we would still be there until today. That is the mitzvah. I said in around 25 seconds. That is the mitzvah of Sibir Tzis Mitzrayim in a nutshell. And for that we thank Hashem, and we can't begin to thank Hashem for everything that He's done for us, and He's helped us every step through the way, and He still helps us through the way. He could really go and wipe out 45 minutes or an hour and a half, however long it is. He really could now. Obviously, there's a Seder Halayla, and we do everything the way it's supposed to be done. But one has to know, you can't forget about it. Just because Bisman Chazal, there was, they knew what they were saying when they were saying the Rasha Mahuaymer, the Chacham Mahuaymer, so on and so forth. But our children don't understand this. As much as we explain to them, and that we're Mekayim the Mitzvah, and as much as not, we're not really Mekayim the Mitzvah. And to that, it's important that we shouldn't think, the children ask, why do we say the story that happened in Bnei Brak, and the answer is because we're trying to say that they knew the Chiyuv Krishma. Whatever, the different divrei Torah that the children come home from school with, just because they said themselves a nice question, a nice answer, if it has nothing to do with anything I told you a minute ago, of what the ikr of Sibir Yetzias Mitzrayim is, he wasn't Mekayim the mitzvah. And it's a pity when some people spend so long up till 3 o'clock in the morning, sitting at a Leil Seder, and they were basically just unfortunately being bypassing the whole Ikra mitzvah and the opportunity that's given to us. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm saying the prevalent custom in many of the Sedarim that I go to is that when we get to Magid, everybody goes around the table, says one paragraph, the next person says a paragraph. So the question is, al pi halacha, is that kosher in the sense that you yourself are not saying everything, or
no? That would be fine as long as the ikr, like I said, the kol mishalem gimel dvarim alalu b'Pesach lo yatzi dechavasim. That part, obviously, lo yatzi dechavasim. That's what we're saying. We're saying that you are not mekayim your mitzvah the way you're supposed to be doing it. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean that you didn't do anything. It means lo yatzi dechavasim of the ikr hadin the way it's supposed to be done. But when people understand, people who are understanding, Pesach, the math speaks. That's one of the Zayir explains that the Kabbalistic term for Pesach is Pesach. So it's a night of speech. The person has to be masmas, has to be same with Geula L'Tfila. So the question, I think the Sfasemis asks, how are you being same with Geula L'Tfila when you say Hashem Sefasei Tiftach Ufi Agit V'Hilasecha? You're interrupting between Gal Yisrael and Shemona Esrei. I think the Sfasemis explains because Hashem Sefasei Tiftach opened when Klal Yisrael, when their speech was in Galus, and it's no coincidence that Moshe Rabbeinu was Aral Sfasayim. That all obviously there's all the Pnimius and the different Kabbalistic reasons of what's going on in the Leil Pesach, but it is an Indian. Every person has to speak it out. But aside from speaking it out, just by asking the Manashtana, and I know there's a custom that everyone around the table asks Manashtana. Not everyone has to ask Manashtana. I mean, everyone should obviously keep to that custom. But what's important is the one person that asks the Manashtana should be explained what he's asking. Whatever language it's in, but it has to be something that everyone around the table understands what the question is, and then what the answer is in a nutshell. It doesn't have to take more than 30 seconds. But he did the mitzvah with that. Our minig is let's go job quicker now. The minig is when you get to Pesach, when you get to Matzah Amara to lift the Matzah Amara. When you Pesach, you do not. There are 16 times that one should spill out some wine by Dam Veish V'Sashan, the Esamakas and the 3 Simonim, the Tzachadash B'Achav, and preferably one should do it with the finger, either with the pinky or with the ring finger. If not, one could do it with spilling it out. That wine should not be drank. The person should not drink that wine. Meaning, you have some people, you want to. Afterwards, you just take the thing and pour it right back in. That wine is actually a sakana to drink that wine. That's shpoich hamotzcha al hagoyim. That's kilu the anger of the Rebbeinu Shalom is in that wine. Rachza, when you wash your hands, a person should preferably, if someone knows they were sitting at the table and they hadn't been mechayev themselves in the netila, then really they run into an issue. They might not have to wash their hands again. So they should either scratch your head or you touch your shoes, and then you have a chiyuv netila. Or if someone was Mesiach Das, if someone hadn't kept focus and concentration from when he did orchatz until rachza, that's also fine. But if not, then he's basically making until Sidayim and he's washing himself for no reason, would be kind of a bracha batala.
He'd wash himself to make the bracha on the matzah.
But if he had already washed himself from the orchatz,
he didn't have a mind for that.
Yeah, but the netila would carry, if his hands are clean, then there's no chiyuv bracha again. So on the netila Sidayim, he might not have to. So you don't have to do much. Just rub your hands like that, or touch your shoes, tie your shoes, and whatever else. And
then you got to do it again.
Well. Then you have a chiyuv bracha. It's just these are simple things that people don't realize. Mishabur says the person is not Mesiach Das, but because the person is Mesiach Das, if someone is concentrating on what he's doing and he makes sure not to do that, then he would run himself into a problem. There are many that have the custom that the children bring the father or the Baal HaSeder the cup to wash. So that's a derech cheres.
You don't do that for the mighty because you got to give the kids a chance to steal the afikoyim.
You got to get up. Okay.
You got to get up.
Yeah. Now this is a pretty practical minig to give out before at rachza. because one cannot speak out from Rachta until after Kairach, a person should explain to people who are who are at the Seder what's going on. Normally you have the kids, Rachta, we wash our hands, but it's matzah, we eat the matzah, just to get to understand what's going on, and he's going to be around, giving the mara. You have to just to keep, explain what we're going to be doing. We're going to be washing, and we're going to be giving everyone a kazayas matzah. And actually, the kazayas matzah, what many people do, and it's not probably a custom that people know about, but I think in halacha it's a pretty good custom. Before everyone washes, the balabai should give around the kazayas matzah to everybody, and then you probably never heard that many. And then Reb Shlomo Zalman, I saw it last night, and it's I'll tell you why. It's for him to be busy giving everyone a kazayas. It has nothing to do with the lechem mishnah. So all he has to do is for the moitzi matzah, what he does is he breaks off a piece and he gives even less than a kazayas to everyone at the table. But if he's going to have to start, getting a better piece and a different piece and all that kind of thing, it could take. I know by me, all the years. This is what I plan on doing this year. All the years it end up taking. We have a seder around.
Before you make the moitzi.
Before the moitzi, you give out.
Then you're supposed to make.
No. Before the Baal Seder makes the moitzi, you give out everyone a kazayas.
Yeah, but then doesn't he have to make on lechem mishnah?
Then he makes on lechem mishnah, and he has to eat from his lechem mishnah kazayas.
Oh.
So he's only
have to eat it from a whole matzah.
Yeah. So that part, what I do is I have a box of matzah.
Ah, okay, got it.
You get a box of matzah and I give everyone. Let's say for all practical purposes, there's one matzah per person is a kazayas. Let's say it's obviously less, but let's say it's that. So I give everyone a matzah. Now when I wash, to try to expedite things, I break off. I have 10 people on my seder. I break off 10 small pieces. I make chametz lachman haaretz.
Oh, then you break off.
And then I break off 10 small pieces and pass it all around the table.
Okay.
Everyone has their kazayas ready and they're ready to move on. But I think it's a little bit more practical and it saves a lot more time.
Very
like
interesting.
That. So it was an interesting thing that came up. I saw this last night.
You're going to take around 2 hours.
Yeah, I think you take
get out the matzah. You say the thing for 30 seconds, they're ready to roll. And not only that, no one's in your way.
This is a very practical. I think this is a very practical thing, and it's halacha. It's something that Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach says. He was a leading.
So you give everybody a piece of matzah, and then you make your moitzi. You give them a piece.
Yeah, no, very good. I'm sorry. I'm just going for myself. Then so you explained before that what you're going to be doing, and then I'm going to be distributing to everyone the small kazayas. The mara, I'm going to be giving everyone a kazayas. So mara, you're going to have to eat it, dip it into the charaises. Other everyone should dip it in independently, or they do it together.
Well, the mara part you can wait till the mara comes up. You don't have to do it all in the beginning.
Right. No, you don't have to. But you should explain what you're going to be doing beforehand, because we try not to speak out until after the kairach. Because the bracha of the achilas matzah might be going on the kairach as well.
This is the gale is what you're doing.
Right. So it could, you could get into it, but sometimes it gets out of hand a little bit, and you just have to start explaining a little bit more, and then all of a sudden the kids start acting up, and you just start getting busy with other things. That's not mamish the seder. It's easier just to say ahead of time. Well, I'm going to be giving everyone a kazayas samara. We'll dip it in the chareises. Do not speak out, and everyone else at the table also has to know not to speak out, because their achilas matzah and their hamaitzi is going to be going on that. Okay.
Very good.
I think the rest of it we basically done with, except that women have to know that they have to say halal after benching also. Yeah, many people don't know that, and they think
We get copies of that.
Just cut the seder.
Everything else is the chumras. I only tell the other part.
The women have to say those gimel things because they don't realize that.
Right. The women have to say the gimel thing, and they have to.
The halal before and the halal after.
The halal before and the halal after. Yeah. Well, they have to say the halal after in order for their cup of halal should be the daled kaiser should be in the cup, has to be whatever it means. It should be a kaishal bracha. So the same way they have to bench and they have to
bench, and then you have for the Eliyahu.
And then you have the other kaishal Eliyahu. But whatever they're saying, whatever the kais is being, the Mishnah Berurah speaks out in the Biur Halacha that the reason why nashim are mechuyev and all the mitzvah laila, not like the reasoning that I told you afenoi beisaneis and all that. They said because they're mechuyev in dal kaises and mechuyev in 4 cups, and they have to say everything that the 4 cups are on. So the 4 cups have in it the Kiddush. The 4 cups having it, the Sibri Tzitz Mitzrayim, they're having it benching, so that means that they have to eat matzah, and they're having it halal, so they have to do that. So the Mishmur, he comes like it's a logical thing, but I think just the reason that we said is also a reason, but the Mishmur is saying, who's bigger than the Mishmur? And he came up with another twist on why Nashim would be mechuyev. And that's not only Nashim, it's everyone. The point that that people forget about is that they're busy with the guests that come to the Seder, and they don't remember that the children are the focus.
Right.
And the children are. I should know the first year. I don't know if I told you over the first year. My son was 5 years old, and he asked me, "Tati, why are you wearing a kittel?" And it was before they were taught in school that you have to wear a kittel. And I started crying. I was so emotionally moved that my son actually asked me a question, and that's really what it's all about. It's so important. We get. I have many pages of Shtuchei Torah. I'm giving the whole week. I'm giving Shtuchei Torah in the yeshiva to the bachrim, explaining to them why we're doing this, why we're doing that. But it's not what the mitzvah is. It might be to stimulate a bacher's mind, a teenager's mind, to understand what they're doing and what's going on. What the chiyuv Sipi and Tzitz Mitzrayim is different than the chiyuv by Kriya Shema, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't justify the means. The point is a father to give over to a child what it is, and there's actually, it's not now, we don't have time to discuss this, but even if the father, there's a story in Nach about a father that even though his child, even that he was a kaifer be'ikr, but he said over the Leil Pesach, he said over the Haggadah, and his son wasn't able to stray from the Jewish way. Yeah. How could that be? So the guy's a kaifer be'ikr, so you're not even hearing it from someone who's it's not pivotal by shavan. He's not really. It's not. Torah says that there's a certain siyata d'shmaya that a father has in saying over the mitzvah, saying over Sibri Tzitz Mitzrayim. And if he's just busy, being nice to the guests and come, let me offer you, let me show you, it's all very nice. Is a very special mitzvah. But the focus has to be not on the son-in-laws and not on and not on the guests. It has to be on the son.